It's 97.5 Kemet FM. You're listening to The Sting. My name's Kevin Roach, and we're here each and every Sunday between the hours of 2 and 4 p.m. On the show right now, we have Mr. David Rodigan. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you very much, Kevin. How are you?
Yeah, well, I'm feeling fine. It's a Sunday afternoon, so yeah, I just can't wait to get home and have something to eat. So, David, when I first heard you, David, you played an album called Scientists Rid the World of the Evil Curse of the Vampire. Remember that?
How can I forget it? That was a classic dub album. Very special, and still very special. It was a magnificent recording. And I played it regularly on Capital Radio, and I remember it generated a lot of interest. And you're not the first person, Kevin, to have mentioned that album and mentioned the impact that scientists had on them. And also on drum and bass DJs. It was a very important period in the music, the evolution of dub.
Capital Radio, a lot of people first heard you then, but you started work with Tony Williams on BBC Radio London.
Yeah, not so many people know that because, I just guess I wasn't there that long. I got a job on Radio London in 1978 in September, and I was there for just over a year. When Capital Radio invited me to join them. Tony Williams and I had co-hosted the show, and then we alternated the show. And it was great fun because two different styles of presentation, two different choices of music. We both loved the music. Tony had been on Radio London working on the Dave Simmons Soul Show as well. He was also a very popular club DJ. He had a club played in the club in the West End of London. He was also a soul DJ as well. So, yeah, I started with him, and then I joined Capital Radio, and he stayed on Radio London.
We're only about 13 miles away from Mansfield, and it's a very important place for you, the Mansfield Civic Centre. It helped you to project your voice, let's say, and when you're doing the sound clashes, I could see the actor in you.
Well, that's very observant of you. I think an element of performance is required by anybody when they go on stage. From amateur dramatics to opera, from one extreme to the other. Why? Because you're having to entertain people. So I think there's an element of performance that's required. And yes, I did learn a big lesson at the Mansfield Civic Theatre back in the early 70s. Because as a jobbing actor, I was working for a theatre company called Theatre North. They're a touring company, and they did repertory theatre, so classical theatre. Shakespeare and then comedies and so on, and modern plays. And one of the plays we did was Henry IV Part 2 by William Shakespeare, and one of the parts I had was Mortimer. The rebel. I also had the part of a messenger in one sequence in the play, and I had to come on and say, "My lord, the king comes on apace." And during rehearsals, the director, Douglas Campbell, kept saying to me, "David, you need to throw that line away more." So I kept trying to say in an even more casual way, "My lord, the king comes on apace." And then on the dress rehearsal at Mansfield Civic Theatre, he stopped the rehearsal. And he came down from the stalls, he came up onto the stage, and he said, "Allow me to demonstrate to you, Mr. Rodigan, how to throw a line away." And he went into the wings, and I heard this roaring and and then this thumping and thumping and thumping, and he was stamping his feet. And then he came literally rushing into the tent, throwing the tent canopy, stood centre stage and held his arm up and said, "My lord, the king comes on apace." And I stood there very embarrassed, and some of the actors laughed just as you did. And he turned to me and said, "That's what I mean by throwing a line away. If you don't project your voice, you will never be heard in the dress circle, never mind the gods, of any theatre, the upper dress circle. You've got to project your voice. You can't be subtle on stage. You can be, but if you're too subtle, you won't be heard." So I learned a big lesson at Mansfield Civic Theatre that evening, and I put it to good use in later years, because when you're on stage, you need to project your voice. You need to be clear and distinct in speaking to people so they understand what you're saying, and you get to the point of your story or your anecdote or the speech before the dub plate is unveiled, and you unleash your thunderbolt.
Just when you think that reggae music is on the down low a bit in this country, you reflect in your book how you like to travel around Europe, mainly on a shoestring. The state of reggae music around the world, what is it saying to you right now?
Well, dancehall music is very, very popular. I know some of the older heads don't perhaps appreciate elements of it, and certainly I find elements of it a little distasteful, but it has a tremendous energy in the way that ska did. Ska was extremely danceable. Ska is still incredibly popular. There are new ska bands all over the world playing a very fast type of ska, faster than the Jamaican ska, as epitomized by Madness, the Specials, the two-tone phenomena in the late 70s, early 80s here in the UK. So the music has always been incredibly popular. Dancehall music is very popular, as is roots rock reggae music. And I know this because I travel to all sorts of countries where I'm invited to play it. There are sound boys all over Central Europe, even into Eastern Europe, France, Spain, Italy, Portugal, across the whole of Scandinavia. There are sound boys and sound girls playing sound systems, playing selections, playing as though they were in Kingston, Jamaica, playing as though they were on Jamaican radio. This music is a universal music, has a universal appeal because of its variety. We have to remember this music preempted dance music, it preempted house music, preempted drum and bass, it preempted techno. This music didn't pop up the other day, and I don't need to tell you that, Kevin. This music's been going almost 60 years. It's a long time. It has a great appreciation on a worldwide basis.
Well, I go to dance hall. Sometimes I play in the dance hall, and I like to let a record go all the way through. What do you think about dance hall DJs now, who you might as well not bring the whole record, just bring the first 45 seconds?
Well, I have to agree with you on that. That's something that I do find a little tiresome. I think that, they say it's hype, but then there's an expression, hype over substance. I think there's a danger, and it's happened in recent years, where the selector seems to think he or she is more important than the music that they're playing. We are not more important than the music. We never were and we never will be. In the food chain, we're right at the end. If there's no engineer, if there are no musicians, no songwriters, no singers, no players of instruments, there is no music, recorded music, and therefore DJs do not have jobs. DJs need to be mindful that without the music, we don't exist. DJs need to be mindful that the reason people come to a show is to hear the music, not someone screaming all over the music, chattering relentlessly over the music, pulling up the music after 15 and 20 seconds, making what I call cheek-forward speeches about the most, ridiculous subject matters often. And I fail to see the point. I remember when people came to a dance and DJs actually allowed the music to breathe, and we're talking about 60s, 70s, and 80s, and the 90s to a degree, where a selector would put a song on and frequently let the song play to the very, very end of the song and even turn it over for an MC to rap upon it. But the point was that the song had a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it was played in that way. I think what's happened is, because we live in a world now that's so fast that the attention span of so many young people, it seems, is quite short. And if you watch any video now, or most videos, every split second there's another shot, another shot, another shot. And there's this feeling that in order to entertain people, we have to have hype. That's not true. Life isn't one big forward. There has to be highs and there have to be lows. We have to allow the music to breathe. And I think the Serato has a lot to answer for, because Serato enables DJs to queue records up in advance to the point where the crowd would normally respond, i.e. the chorus. And what we're getting a lot of now is DJs playing, for want of a better word, a bunch of choruses one after the other.
Yes.
And I do find that, I have to say, tedious. And I frequently, it's not unknown for me to just walk out of a club, walk out of a dance, because I just think this is just unbearable. Someone blabbing and squealing and screaming and hollering all over the music. stop, please. Let's hear the music.
Some DJs just believe their own hype. I'm telling you that now. I've had experience of that. You had a loving mother and a very supportive father, and he helped in a way to start up your own record business.
My father was a founder member of the SAS. He was one of the original volunteers. He fought behind the enemy lines against Rommel in the desert. He never spoke much about it, but I know that he was a very brave man, and I looked up to him greatly. And yes, he was very helpful. When I first realized that in order to exist or earn a living, I had to do something in between jobs as an actor, so I decided to sell records, and my father helped me buy some equipment so I could set up a rig on a market stall in various, one in Oxford and London and various marketplaces where I could sell records. So yes, he'd certainly help me. In fact, he would rise early on Sunday mornings and put stuff into his car and drive me down and help me set up my record stall. So fond memories of my father. He was very supportive.
And your son has now taken up the reins of being a DJ in the clubs.
Yes, my eldest son, Jamie, is a passionate lover of reggae music and always has been. And he's decided that he wants to make a career of it. I did try to dissuade him from doing this because I warned him that by its very nature, being a DJ was highly unpredictable. It's very competitive and sometimes very difficult to earn a living from it. Many DJs are DJs for fun. They DJ more or less as a hobby, and that's great, and there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes it's very difficult to support yourself, never mind a family, on the wages of a DJ. So I tried to dissuade him, but he seems determined to push through, and he certainly enjoys the music. At least he can mix. I can't. I couldn't mix a cake. And the younger son is a cadenza, is a recording artist signed to Columbia Records, and he's producing a lot of very interesting music. Many of the tracks are rooted in Jamaican music as well. And if you hear his work, I'm sure you'll hear that and appreciate what he's trying to do as a young producer and arranger.
In your book, you give, on the index side of things and going through the story, you give comment on and background on the various genres of music in your book.
Yeah, I think it's important. As Damian Marley said, you need to write it down. It's important that the history is reflected. And that's what Ian Burrell, and I have to salute Ian Burrell here, because without him this book wouldn't have been made. He was an independent, he's the media editor of the independent newspaper until recently, with a profound knowledge of music and all forms of music, but especially of reggae. And so he volunteered to help me write this book. And as I say, without him, well, it would have been really impossible, I think, because I wouldn't have had enough time. So the two of us set about it. It took 2 years to do it. And we decided that it would be more interesting if we used chapter headings to reflect changes in the music. And that's what we did. So you'll see from the chapter headings alone, and somebody put on Twitter the other day, just the chapter headings make for an interesting read, just looking at them in terms of what's coming, what you can look forward to in the book. And I use those titles to reflect what was happening in the music and what was happening to me in my life at that time.
Yeah, because the title is very interesting, My Life in Reggae Music. The way you segue out of your life, your personal life, what was happening, into the life and the world of reggae music, and drift back out again. It's very well written and very well put together as well. But you are coming to Nottingham, David. Rewind and fast forward. David Rodigan and Mighty Crown. Bank Holiday Sunday, April the 30th.
Absolutely, I'm really looking forward to that. I've always admired Mighty Crown from when they won the first ever World Cup clash, which I believe was in 1999. I've clashed with them several times. I've been beaten by them, and I've beaten them. They are a formidable force, and I admire them because of their passion and their deep knowledge of the music. And there's one thing that I think a lot of people are not aware of with regards to Mighty Crown, that they have a selector who tends to stay in Japan, Koji, who has one of the deepest dubplate boxes I've ever seen when it comes to vintage reggae. So if you think they're all about hype and nothing else, watch out. They have an undercurrent to their sound, and if ever they unearth those dubs, the vintage classical dubs, you'd be truly astonished to hear them. And they're all still on original acetates. Koji only cuts his music on dubplate. He's not interested in cutting it onto a laptop, or he only plays dub plates to this day. They're very creative. They're very inventive. They take dubs, they take clashing very seriously, and they've won World Clash many times. They really are. They should be revered because they're not Jamaican. They're not English. There's a problem of language, which they've conquered. It's not easy to enter into another culture and another language, but they've made that change, and they've done it with respect as well to the music that they love.
So remember, people, on the 30th of April, Bank Holiday Sunday, David Rodigan, Mighty Crown, Rewind, Fast Forward. There's going to be 2 rooms. You're going to be in the Rewind room. Am I correct there? Yes?
I'm not quite sure where I'm going to be, but probably in the Rewind too. Yeah.
So. Alongside Father Ovis, Gemini Don, our very own V Rocket, and Captain and Country Judah. Fast Forward, you got Mr. Lane, Hurricane, Jermaine, Screechy, and the Busy Movements, just to name a few of the artists there. And that's happening at the O2 Academy over there in Birmingham. David, one more question. What can you learn from reading your book?
I think you can learn that passion brings joy and happiness, because it's my passion for the music which has brought me tremendous joy and happiness. The music does lift your soul. It gives me great comfort and solace. It lifts my soul. It enables me to dance. It enables me to listen and consider and contemplate the ways of the world and the things that are happening in the world. Mm-hmm. Within the music, there have been some magnificent songwriters and some magnificent albums. And people can read a book, or people can listen to music, people can meditate. But we all need downtime. We all need inspiration. And reggae, in all its formats, has inspired me across the years. I think if you read the book, you'll understand my passion for the music and how it affected me, and you'll also learn something about the music and the joy that it can bring to you as a reader and as a lover of the music. So I'd say that if you were to pick up the book and read it, it seems that obviously I'm telling the story because it's my life, mm-hmm. and how my life in reggae music, but the general consensus seems to be, from the reviews that we've been getting and comments that people have been making, is that it's a very interesting read. We didn't want it to be too in-depth in terms of on the B side of this record from 1974, because that would be, that's too kind of train spotting, that's a bit too detailed. Yes. We don't need that. We tried to keep it moving. We tried to get a good pace to the book. It wasn't. We didn't, punch it out in a couple of weeks, a couple of months. It took 2 years. We did and Ian, of course, was able to do a lot of background in terms of other facts and figures and descriptions beyond the storytelling of my life, and that's, I think, why the book is an interesting read. It's not really for me to say, but this is what people have been saying about it.
David Rodigan, My Life in Reggae. Where can you buy it? And I understand that on the 1st of April, you're going to be having a meet and greet session here in Nottingham.
Oh, yes. Allow me to just clarify that to your listeners in Nottingham and the surrounding area, because I must thank Valerie Robinson, Valerie V. Rocket, because she's done so much to help the communities become aware of the book. Thank you, Valerie. And she's done so much for Sound Clash culture. Without her, frankly, we wouldn't have the Sound Clash culture we have in this country. And now I'm not just saying that because I know her, I'm saying it because it's true. But I know that she had made arrangements for me to do a signing in Nottingham. But it transpires as a logistical problem there. People want to be able to buy the book. So in order to be able to buy the book, they've got to go to a place where the book is on sale. It's all very well saying there's going to be a signing, but if people don't have the book, then it can't be signed. And if the book's not on sale, it wouldn't be possible for them to buy it. So we'd be dependent upon people who've already bought the book turning up to have it signed. That's not the way a Q&A signing goes. So the logistics of it, and this is not Valerie's fault or the people in Nottingham set that signing up. I know it's been announced already. It's just a problem of logistics. So to keep everything simple, we have to do it in a venue where the book is already on sale. That venue in Nottingham is the Rough Trade shop where they sell the book, and they are selling the book. And on that day, I will be in Rough Trade for a couple of hours at least. I'll be signing the book, and you can buy the book there as well. That's what we've been doing on the other signings. We've been doing it in a place where the book is available to be purchased. So, yes, I will be doing that in Nottingham, and I hope that people will come along and say hi.
David, it's been an absolute pleasure, and it has been a pleasure. Thank you very much. I hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Cheers.